Have you ever wanted a sports car but you can't quite afford one? Well, stay tuned because this right here is the Lamborghini of FPV. G'day, you absolute legend. Stu from UAVfutures here. It feels fantastic to be back in the studio. How is everybody doing? I hope you're well. Now, what this video is for, those people who want the FPV Lamborghini, the Ferrari of the drone world. What we've got right here, this is the Nazgul Evoque. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm going to link some links. I'm going to put some links down below in the description, but this is a special video and I'd really appreciate it if you could watch this thing through and drop your comments down below. Things you like, things you didn't like, things we're trying, because it is our first real review on the channel since we've moved. It's been a long time coming. We've got so much FPV stuff that's going to be flying out. You're going to be, oh, that's a good pun. But so much FPV stuff that's going to be coming out on the channel. I can't wait to show you, and your feedback is absolutely critical because I'm trying to make the best videos that I can for you guys to get more people flying, because FPV completely changed my life and I want you guys to have that as well. So what we're going to be doing today, we're going to be having a look at the Nazgul Evoque, whatever it is. I'm just going to call it the Nazgul. We're going to put it through its paces, give it its actual UAV ranking, put it through the test track, all that sort of stuff. And we also have our first special guest appearance, I should say. Dr. One, or the doctor, is going to be on the show as well. So we'll be checking out his thoughts on this bad boy. All in all, having a good old fly, having some fun and finding out just how well does this quad go. But that out of the way, let's get into it. So as a bit of an overview and who this thing is suited for, the Nazgul, of course, it's a 5-inch from Iflight, who makes some fantastic stuff in the past. The Nazgul is probably one of the most popular FPV drones out there, and for good reason. They've had a few revisions. I've got the DJI version right here, and it just seems like it keeps getting better and better and better. And when I look at this thing compared to what we started with like wires hanging out and all that sort of stuff, this is the sleekest, sexiest design I think I have ever seen in an FPV quad. It's got so many details, I guess, and it's the little things that matter, or that's what I tell my wife anyway. It's the little things that make this drone really stand apart from some of the others. So let's stick it on the scales. And I should say, let's see if this is in shot in the roof cam, who this is suited for as well. It's not made for races. This is more of a freestyle pilot's just dream come true. You could do a little bit of cruising with it as well, although I don't think it's the most efficient. So it's more just made for some fun, strong, funky freestyle. Let's stick it on the scales with the best sticker on here as well. It is coming in at 440 grams. So look, it's not the lightest thing, but it's also not the heaviest thing. It's got a fair bit of TPU on here, a lot of protection as well. And if you're into freestyle and you're a beginner, I think this is going to be something that you're going to like as well, because it just works. It is so easy to turn this thing on, take it out, rip it around and have some fun. There is no soldering, there is no junk that you really have to mess around with. That's what I love about drones nowadays. The barrier to entry is getting easier and easier. But let's move on, have a look at what makes this thing so special, go through some of the components, all that sort of stuff, and then the fun stuff, rip it around. The first part, the components and the design, it's got let me get my trusty chopstick right here. It's got an F7 flight controller in there, and I wish I could show you this, because check this out. This design is that in focus right there? It is shrouded in this beautiful layer of like plastic with LEDs everywhere. We're going to talk about that a little bit as well. I've got the DJI version, of course. It's just got the Vista in here. I think it's got 55 amp ESCs. I've got a 6-inch version. So we're rocking a slightly lower KV motor. I'll put all the stats on the screen, or you can check out some of the other links down below. There's like StretchedX, TrueX, some different versions you can get as well. It's got GPS on the back, and it came with some props, but the props for me, they felt like garbage. So I've switched mine over to some A-bands from Emax. They were just way too noisy, the original props. They screamed in a bad way. So it was so much nicer to fly. So if you do end up getting this, please change the props out. But check this out for design. First things first, you'll notice it is absolutely just a jam-packed, everything in here seems really, really snug, really well put together, and it's going to be very difficult to damage your components on the inside because they are shrouded by this plastic around the outside. Of course, I've got the TBS version because I'm going to be flying mine around on the Tango 2, but if I put this in and check this out, so this right here, you can see, if you, hopefully that's going to be coming through in the roof cam as well. You've got all these little green bits of, I guess, lighting I don't know what you would actually call that, but yeah, some green lighting or LEDs running through the thing. But this is because I plugged in a full battery. So it's saying, yo, I'm ready to rock and roll. I'm ready to go. Check this out. And it has a very nice TPU connector on the back as well for your battery. So you're not going to be cutting any battery leads, which I think is a huge improvement over this. So this was my other Nazgul, I think the Nazgul Iflight XL5V5 or something, this original Nazgul. I was always chopping battery leads and antennas, not so much on this one. It's got this beautiful lead, plugs in very well. But check this out, is that gonna be in shot? Now we are flashing up red because my battery's flat, so it's giving me a bit of a visual warning as well. So all in all, the design, I've got to say, and this is going to come into our UAV score you'll see at the end, the design out of 10 for this thing, I believe. And we're kicking it off with a bang this year, or I should say this end of the year, whatever. We're kicking off the UAVfutures studio. This is the nicest design quad I think I have ever seen. And I've really got to take my hat off to Iflight. It just, when I say it looks like a bought one or it looks like a shop one, there is such a difference between what drones used to look like with wires hanging out, open spaces everywhere, to what this is. This is kind of moving in the direction that just, it looks like you could just pick it up off the shelf at, not even a hobby shop, just a, I don't know, some shop that sells professional grade stuff. It looks absolutely gorgeous. So I'm gonna give it 10 out of 10 in terms of the design. I really like the components they've put in here as well. No, I'm choking there. Nothing but quality coming out of Iflight. And then moving on, let's talk about the build quality just very quickly. So let's rate the build quality out of 10. I'm gonna say Iflight keeps smashing it. Probably a 9 out of 10, 9.5 out of 10, a very, very solid build. If I did a build like this, I'd be like, yeah, fantastic job. This is probably, dare I say, nicer put together than I could do myself. So if you don't like the idea of soldering, you just want to get a binder fly that works out of the box, you don't have to worry about it. This is going to be right up a lot of people's alleys. So 9.5 out of 10 on the build quality. But now the fun stuff, what we're going to do, we're going to go out and rip it around. We're going to have some fun. I'm going to show you some flight footage. There's going to be flight footage from me and also some flight footage from Dr. One. And I guess that's probably time to introduce him, because a drum roll please. It's ready to check out our next segment that people have never seen before. And let me say, we're keeping his identity secret because, well, we don't want to take the lid off it just yet, but a top tier pilot is going to be showing you some footage as well. So let's roll that, have some fun, and then we'll come back to the studio, wrap it up with the performance, the flight times, find out if it was worth the money, the value, all that sort of stuff after you've seen the flight footage, and just how does the Nazgul Evoke go. So let's do it. Let's introduce the doctor in 3, 2, 1.
Yo mother duckers, the doctor here. I'm keeping my identity a secret to stop all the FPV ladies swarming me. You know how it is. FPV rockstar lifestyle. Batteries and babes. Now appearing on this second-rate FPV channel lol. Wish I was on Nick Burns instead. Stu's not even paying me. I'll be lucky if he gives me lunch. Anyways, I guess let's talk about the drone. This drone is pretty sweet. Maybe not as much punch as I would like, but better than most. It definitely is more of a cruiser than a racer, but let's push this thing as far as we can. Bloody Stu crashed this before I got a turn. What a tosser. The props this had on before were terrible. Sounded like a cat being set on fire. As far as racing goes, I would find this too heavy. Maybe more suited to people who just like to chill and fly. My professional diagnosis of this drone is it's got all the bells and whistles, looks slit as F. Strong as my bicep, but not for the pro racers. Maybe someone like Stu who flies like a pussy would prefer this. And let's face it. Where has he been? Doing like one upload a month WTF. After this I'll have to punch him in the neck. Who agrees? Anyways, F that dude. Back to the drone. Awesome for freestyle, average for racing.
Radio, finally it's my turn. Thank you very much, Dr. One. I don't know why he's so aggressive. Hopefully I have to give him lunch. Won't get a punch in the neck. But let's talk about the Nazgul. And all in all, I do have to say that this is the best drone that Iflight has ever made. What a way to kick it off for 2022. Our first real review. We're going to get a UAV score up in a little bit as well. But here we are, just cruising around, doing something a little bit different than sort of the racing line that Dr. One was taking. Just cruising around, doing a bit of funky freestyle. And that's kind of what this drone is made for. Just doing a bit of long-range cruising, doing a little bit of freestyle, not having to worry if you crash it because it's got GPS. And on top of that, you're going to get your drone back, but also it's going to be well protected thanks to all those plastic coatings and that sort of stuff we've got in here. Although I must say, crashing this in the Australian mangroves, there's probably no way that I would be walking out here to get this. I'd be way too worried about brown snakes or something like that. So if I did crash this drone, it'd be down the gurgler for me. And that's kind of a bit of a bummer because you've got to think about the price of this drone is a bit more than usual. So you're definitely going to get what you pay for, but the things you're paying for in here, it's look, you get a lot, but it's going to cost you as well. But that doesn't mean just because we've said it's a freestyle drone doesn't mean you can't rip this thing around. Definitely have some fun. All I'm saying is it's not made for those top tier races, but everyone else, I think you're going to have an absolute ball with this drone. It's robust, it works out of the box, it still has a fair bit of poke, and I think a lot of fun as well. It just works. I like it. I got to say, what a way to kick off our first review of 2022, coming back with a bang with this drone. What we should do, let's jump back to the studio, wrap it up, have a look at the pros and cons, and give this thing our first UAV score. So let's do that in 3, 2, 1. Woo-hoo! Rightio, so thank you very much there, Dr. One. I'd love to know what you guys think as well. But overall, I got to say, for the performance of things this does, I'm going to give it maybe a 7.5, possibly 8. I'm going to say a 7.5 out of 10. Look, it's a very robust drone, but don't expect some crazy punch outs in 2021 or 2022 like some of the top tier racing drones can offer. It is still way more powerful than sort of most drones on this wall, but the bar has moved that little bit further. But it's not made for insane speeds or some crazy lap times. If you're sort of putting this through the test track like you saw there, you're flying this thing around, you're flying this thing wrong. You're meant to be doing some freestyle, cruising around like some of that other more flowy footage and that sort of stuff at the start of the video, or the start of the flight footage I should say, because it's just not a racer, and that is absolutely fine. I don't think I'm going to deduct any points in that regard. It's just in terms of raw performance, there are quads that will outperform this in things like straight lines, turning ability, that sort of stuff. But holding up to crashes, that's another thing for durability. You're going to be better suited to something like this if you're flying in dangerous places, in bandos, if you crash a lot more, maybe if you're a beginner, than something like an ultralight twig or something that's going to possibly snap or break an arm just on a tumble through some glass. But that moves us on the pros and the cons, the things I like, the things I don't like. So the pros, let's start them off. I love the LEDs, I love the details, all the little parts. I just love how easily it works. It's got GPS, of course mine came with Crossfire, it's rocking DJI, but there is many versions as well. So you've got different frame options, different camera options, whether you want to go digital or analog, different receiver options, so lots and lots of options. It just works straight out of the box. It's got a lot of good documentation as well. There's not really too much I don't like about this quad. It really does look super sexy. It's like I said at the start of the video, a Lamborghini or a Ferrari of the drone world. The only thing I don't really like, well, that's a bit of a con with this drone, I should say, is you got to pay for that. That style, it ain't free. That performance, it's not free. A drone looking this good, it's going to cost you some dollars to get somebody to build this for you. And that's why it's a little bit pricey. So depending on your version, I think for the Aussie dollars, it's like 500 to 800. Or for if you're in the Freedom units or whatever, the USD, I'll put some numbers on the screen anyway and do some correlations, some crazy maths. But I think it's like 400 to 600 or something like that. So you can definitely go check that out if you are interested in the link below. But another thing as well, the coolness factor, it's off the scale. This one I really think is going to turn heads. It reminds me, dare I say, of an old school Vendetta, which you'll see up there, which is one of the few drones that had these sleek side panels put in there. Plus that's going to stop a whole bunch of grass and those sorts of things getting in there. So the value of this thing for me is probably 6.5 out of 10. So it's expensive, and you can probably build a quad similar for a bit less money. So the value is not quite there for me if you're the value conscious, but if you're happy to pay a few extra dollaroos, you're going to be more than happy with this drone right here. So our first ever drone score, let's give it a UAV score. It's going to be out of 50. Thank you very much for this amazing graphic. We should pop up right there. And I wish I could rank this thing, but it's our first ever score. So we're going to have to wait and see how it stacks up against some other quads in the future. Anyway, hope you guys like that. Definitely subscribe for more FPV related content. Drop your comments down below about who you think Dr. One might be. And I'd love to know, what did you think about this first video, the different style? I would love to quantify these quads a bit more by giving you all the information that I can, not only the specifics and stuff, but things like our flight times, things like the quality, the build, like giving it a rating out of 10, the UAV score at the end. Let me know, is that something that you guys are interested in? Anyway, other than that, subscribe for more FPV related content, and as always, happy flying.